Throughout the day, volunteer collectors knocked on doors in the Lower Hunter, making this request.
Hi, I'm from the Red Cross. Would you like to make a donation for the doorknock appeal?
According to the Red Cross, the response has been generous. Although fewer than the anticipated 3,000 volunteers took up the collection bags, their diligence paid off. So much so, Appeal Chairman Vince Sinclair says the $56,000 target will be reached. The money will be spent setting up a telephone security service for the region's elderly this year, as well as maintaining existing services. The appeal will continue throughout the week until next Sunday. A number of areas not covered today because of events on in the region, such as Muswellbrook and Raymond Terrace, will be asked to donate. It's not as popular as stamp collecting or as convenient as coins, but beer can collecting does have its own devoted following. 65 diehards from throughout New South Wales travelled to Newcastle yesterday for the Collectors Club meeting. The Australasian Club, yes there is one, boasts 1,100 members. The object of all collectors is to swap, swipe or sweet talk into their possession as many different cans as possible from throughout Australia and overseas.
Well, the contents are interesting.
Kent Murrells owns 4,000 beer cans. He has built up a number of overseas contacts who provided him with cans from Quebec, Canada, Japan, East and West Germany. In fact, just about every beer-producing country in the world. There are sporty cans, commemorative cans, provocative cans, even, appropriately enough, a beer can for St Patrick's Day. To Kent, finding a rare can is as good as winning the lottery. He says the appeal of his hobby can be explained in this way.
Well, the contents are interesting, and the outsides are colourful and bright, and they're put out for different reasons. It's just an interesting hobby, actually.
Now, I notice it's mainly empty cans that you collect. What happens to the contents?
What contents was that?
Meanwhile here, the Martyr is one of the hospitals that has been taking the overflow from Sydney. Outside Sydney, only the Martyr and Canberra have hospitals with a level 3 intensive care nursery. That is, a unit that can ventilate babies and provide nursing expertise needed. This baby girl was transferred from Sydney in a critical condition for its premature and with breathing difficulties, but she's now on the mend. The intensive care nursery can hold 11 babies with their 7 staff per shift.
Well, I don't think we could see ourselves as taking all the excess babies that Sydney may not be able to handle themselves. It would be fairly uncommon for us to have 3 beds vacant at any one time.
In the past week, the Martyr here in Newcastle has accepted 5 babies transferred from Sydney hospitals because of the nursing shortage there. But if the situation there escalates, there could be problems, as the Martyr has said they've no more room.
We would try very hard never to accept a baby from outside the region if it meant that a baby from within the region couldn't be accommodated, so we do try to take that into account.
According to Ambassador Ben Yakov, there's more to Israel than is presented by the international media. While it has been at war with its neighbours since it became a nation, Israel also has a deep commitment to helping developing countries in Asia and the Pacific, and it has developed an expertise in the fields of medicine, agriculture and technology that is now being offered to the world. With strong relations between Australia and Israel, which at less than 1/3 the size of Tasmania has a population of 4.5 million people, the ambassador says there's the potential for much more cultural exchange as well as increased trade.
We have sold in 1985 to the extent of about 80 million US dollars. We have bought about 55 US dollars, which is a minuscule fraction of your import and our export. we can do more, we can do better, and we think we have something to offer. The problem is that sometimes we have to convince our manufacturers, our industrialists, to overcome what you call, what still is being called, the tyranny of distance.
Of the 100 police in the Maitland district attended the meeting this afternoon in the city's courthouse. They say their area, which stretches from Dungog, Maitland to Nelson Bay, is just too big for the number of police here. They say the station's statistics back up their claim for more staff. They agreed with the State Association that 2,000 extra police are needed in New South Wales. Secretary of the Maitland branch of the association, Senior Constable Peter Miles, says that unless this shortage is rectified, the public as well as the overworked police will suffer.
It's reaching a point where it's becoming critical, where police can't carry out their jobs. They're getting to the stage where they can't prepare their briefs properly for court because they've got too many on. They're getting to the stage where they're starting to get stress-related illnesses. We've had 2 recently go off with stress-related illnesses. Hopefully they're going to be all right. They were 2 very good police. We're very concerned to think we're starting to get illness in the job. But by all means, look, we can get over that as long as we can see some light at the end of the tunnel, as long as we can see the government is going to relent and give us some help and give us a few extra police so we can cope with the problems we've got.
Sponsors of South Newcastle League.
A friendly get-together of players, management and supporters of the Newcastle Souths side gathered under the roof of their new sponsor, Istana Malaysia. Presenting the cheque to South Rugby League Club President John Fleming on behalf of the restaurant was manager Carol Forrest. In return for the generous support, it was Souths who showed their appreciation by crowning Miss Forrest Newcastle Souths Princess for this year's Rugby League competition. It's been 10 years since the side won a premiership, but with the signing up of top players such as former Souths junior Richard Jones and category raider Nigel Wilson, both management and players are confident of clinching the 1986 title.
Well, this year will be a consolidation on the efforts of the club over the last couple of years, when we've perhaps had more lean years, but with new players, new recruits. 85 was a much better season we'd previously had, and in 1986 with even more new players and recruits to the club, and a solid commitment and a new solid sponsor which is giving us confidence, then we look forward to an even better year in 1986.
Hi, I'm Penny Cook. I'd like to tell you about this hilarious new comedy, The Nerd. Everyone knows what a nerd is. Well, this nerd's played by English comic Chris Langham, star of Not the 9 O'Clock News and... never mind. The Nerd also stars my good friends Kevin Miles, John Derham. And it's about this, well, it's the most hilarious play I've ever seen. Read, been in, all of them. Just one thing, don't let this man into your home.
One of the great joys of playing this part is I get to do all the sort of obnoxious things that everybody secretly wants to do in other people's houses during their ghastly cocktail parties. And I get to live out those fantasies on stage on a nightly basis, which is good fun.
The play was written by American author Larry Shue, who also wrote The Foreigner. Mr. Shue died in a plane crash in August last year, just before he was to come to Australia, where he planned to attend rehearsals of his play. For Chris Langham, though, playing comedy is not new.
Since I started writing and performing, one way or another, it's been mainly comedy. I mean, The Muppet Show, Not the 9 O'Clock News, Spitting Image, Life of Brian, Secret Policeman's Ball, all the stuff I think that you would know me from that's come over here has all been comedy, and pretty much everything else that I've done. Even although it's been sometimes journalism, sometimes it's performing or acting, sometimes it's writing. It always seems to be in that area.
A lot of people have said that others involved with things like the Muppets, Not the 9 O'Clock News, Monty Python, are a little bit strange.
Oh, I don't think so at all. No, I think we're perfect. I think everybody else is weird. I think we're completely normal. I mean, no one else, has noticed that Sarah Ferguson looks like a bloke with his head on fire. But we in the comedy trade have.
It was a mixed gathering at the Park Royal today, with school children, media representatives, basketballers and hotel representatives all getting together. But as it turned out, the reason was simple. It was for the Park Royal to announce its continuing involvement in local basketball. At the primary school level, the hotel is continuing to sponsor a basketball skills competition to encourage youngsters to learn and develop the skills. The hotel's major involvement, however, is as the major sponsor of the Hunters South Western League team. Today, the new General Manager of the Park Royal Hotel, Andrew Megginson, handed over the $9,000 sponsorship cheque to Hunters Committee President John Hamilton. The President believes the Hunters play an important part in developing a strong local basketball league.
Our purpose is really there to develop the players so that they can make it into the National League. At times it gets frustrating only because people view it as a second division and don't realise the standard of the league, in that some of our top teams can beat some of the teams that made the playoffs in the National League last year.
Apart from two American imports, the Hunters is an all-local affair, featuring ex-youth players, ex-Falcons and others who've come up through the ranks. Last season the team finished fourth, and this year coach Phil Matthews hopes it will bring an even better result.
How we'll go will ultimately depend on not only us but how good the opposition is, but we are doing all we can to ensure that our skills are a level sufficient to do well in non-ADL.
Do you think the talent's there?
The talent is definitely there. It's a matter of application, it's a matter of attitude, it's a matter of putting it all together on the particular night that you play.
As a coach, how do you feel that
At around 20 to 6, three cars collided at the stop signs at the intersection of Derby and Bull Street. At this stage, it's believed that the green Volkswagen travelling west along Bull Street hit the Holden station wagon travelling north down Derby Street, which in turn collided with the yellow Celica as it swerved to miss the oncoming vehicle. 4 people were involved in the accident. The driver of the Volkswagen was slightly injured, as was the female driver of the Celica. The driver of the station wagon also escaped serious injury, but the passenger, a man in his mid-30s, was trapped under the dashboard of the car. Rescue teams and ambulancemen quick to the scene tried to free him from the twisted frame. After nearly 20 minutes, the man was pulled from the vehicle, suspected of suffering neck and spinal injuries. Investigations into the cause of the accident are still taking place. The 25-member team have been hard at work behind the oars at Horseshoe Beach in preparation for the big event. After winning the Dragon Boat Classic at the inaugural Newcastle Harbour Regatta in February, the team has been selected to compete at the national titles at Sydney Harbour on April the 22nd. Among the team members are 2 females. Rower Chris Wilson and drummer Donna Rolfe are joining the others to compete against state teams as well as some international competitors. Team manager Chris Stavros says he's confident about the Newcastle side's performance so far.
We've been training now for 2 months, 3 times a week, and with the spirit the boys have got, we're really doing well. I think we'll be very ready for the race.
Well, how do you rate yourself and your chances in the Nationals?
Well, we're an unknown quantity, and not having competed before in this, I couldn't really say. But I know we're going to give it one hell of a go, and I'm very confident we'll do well.
Much interest at this Easter's $52,000 Bathurst bike races is in this man, 34-year-old Jim Budd from Budgewoi, seen here on his way to winning the 1978 Castrol 6-hour production race. He's won that event twice and is one of the race's legends. But fed up with the pressures of top-line racing, he hung up his hat in 1980, but he's making his comeback at Bathurst. Two other top-line locals have scored spectacular results in the recent RZ Masters series. Nabden's Graham Morris finished first in the most recent heat of the series and is in the highly competitive 250 production class at Bathurst. Despite a horror accident that kept him out of racing for 11 months, he's back to his best.
Back in 1984, I had a very bleak year with about 11 months out of racing due to injury. I had a pretty severe accident in Queensland and broke my leg and pelvis, shoulder, cheekbone, collapsed a lung, which it's probably taken me about 18 months to regain my confidence and fitness and so on.
But everything's looking good for Bathurst this year for you?
Oh, I'm feeling very confident, yeah. Last weekend's performance in the Masters Series really boosted me up, and I'm looking forward to hopefully another win at Bathurst.
Local insurance salesman Jeff McNaughton scored third place in the recent RZ Masters heat. Last year he finished fourth in the Australian 250 Grand Prix and set class lap records at Adelaide and Surfers Paradise. He'll ride a superfast Suzuki RGB 500 in the 1000cc Grand Prix at Bathurst, and he's looking for a big result.
Well, it will mean a lot to us, especially for me this year, because first chance in a 500. And if everything does go well with the 500, it looks like we'll be over in Malaysia in 2 weeks contesting Grand Prix, which is world class, up against world class riders.
Professor Kay says if he has the policy on naming heads of university bodies will be extended to include everything, even lecture papers.
Well, I believe that language should be altered by usage. It shouldn't be altered by people making laws to force other people to conform to what a minority believe are the words that we should use. This is something that's never been put to a referendum. It's something that has come out of a minority group who seem to feel very self-conscious about their role in society, and they're getting all uptight over words that have man in them for some reason.
Do you think it's right, though, for highly qualified academics like yourself to be arguing publicly about such a matter?
Oh, I think it's completely wrong. I couldn't agree more.
Well, why do it?
Why? Because the very top authority in our university has seen fit to devote time to the matter, and all I'm pointing out is that they should be spending their time on better things.
The top authority Colin Kay refers to is represented by Professor Ken Dutton, who signed his public reply as Director of Affirmative Action, a title bestowed under anti-discrimination legislation applying to all universities.
It's a nice bit of hyperbole that Professor Kay has used. I think he himself would agree that he's drawing a rather long bow when he suggests that the Council would be taking action against anyone that didn't completely carry out the spirit of that policy, which is, after all, meant simply to open up university procedures rather than close them, in encouraging more women to stand for these important positions.
A question I put to Professor Kay: is it right for academics to be arguing publicly about such a thing?
Oh, it's perfectly right for academics to be arguing, privately or publicly. It's a matter of the sort of debate and discussion that universities are all about.
Most have probably seen them on their television program, but for more than 10,000 fans, last night's open-air concert at the International Sports Centre was a chance to see and meet the team that now rates as one of Australia's most popular young group of performers. Hosted by the ever-popular Johnny Young, the team danced and sang both old and new favourites. The cross-section of the audience ranged from between 1 to 80 years of age, with everyone joining in
all the fun, including the favourite characters from the show. And just to help celebrate the Easter spirit, Peter Cottontail made a very special appearance for all the girls and boys.
Are you all comfortable too?
Hello, I'm Mark Matho, and tonight I'll report on a car accident near Branxton in which 3 people were killed and 1 injured in a collision between an ambulance and a car. The collision crushed the front of the sedan, and it took rescue workers more than an hour and a half to release one of the bodies.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.